Hello everyone, this is Kona, and thank you for tuning in for another TF2 commentary. Now this video is actually a video response to TF2 Gentleman, one of the most awesome spies in TF2. I mean, I think he's known for playing spy. He's really great. Look at his acting, by the way. Oh yeah. Now, TF2 Gentleman talks about the status quo of the spy class in TF2. I recommend watching his video before watching mine because I am making a video response to that video. Now, the Spy is a very unique class. It's kind of a lonely class in my opinion. Every time I play Spy I feel a little bit lonely. But it is a very unique and fun class, and I think probably the most difficult class to play in TF2. I've been playing TF2 for a while now, for 3 or 4 years or so, and I know what it was like before the Dead Ringer came out, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know that pretty much every spy out there now uses the Dead Ringer. Not everyone, but a lot of, majority of the spies out there are using Dead Ringer. And TF2 Gentleman talks about Dead Ringer and how the role of the spy, or at least the way spy is played, is a lot different than I think what Valve intended. Now, I consider the Dead Ringer a pretty cheap item. I mean, it's kind of like a get-out-of-jail-free card. Kind of like the Spicicle. You put those two together, by the way, you get like 2 chances. You basically have 2 get-out-of-jail-free cards. I don't know why they did that. But I think the Dead Ringer is being used in kind of gimmicky sort of ways. Perhaps ways that Valve didn't intend them to be used. For example, you can see that I'm here using the Ambassador and the Dead Ringer. This is probably not what they had in mind when they made the Dead Ringer. When they first released the Dead Ringer, it was all about faking your death. It was all about like confusing the enemy and kind of playing mind games with the enemy, making them guess, oh, are you dead or not? But, I see a lot of people use a Dead Ringer with the Ambassador and kind of use it as a safety net. They're not really trying to fool the enemy into thinking that you're dead. They just activate it in sort of very obvious ways. And it's like, oh, that's obviously a Dead Ringer spy. And, it seems like a very sloppy way of playing spy. When I think of spy, I think of a class that infiltrates behind enemy lines, kind of sneaks amongst the enemy, and then goes in for the kill when they least expect it. That's what I think when I think the spy class. But it's very rare now to find someone who actually plays with, let's say, the Cloak and Dagger or Inviswatch. You see a lot of Dead Ringer spies. Now, I'll admit that I do play with the Dead Ringer. Oh, wait, here's a guy who plays with the Inviswatch. All right. Right when I say that, there's no one who plays with the Inviswatch. He's right there. He's not that sneaky, though. But yeah, I'll admit that sometimes I like to play with Dead Ringer, and I like to do, just the activate Dead Ringer right in front of the enemy, make it so obvious that I activated Dead Ringer just to get behind them. Sometimes I use that strategy, but, I like to sometimes use the Inviswatch as well because it reminds me of the time when you had to actually think to, kind of get behind the enemy and go in for the kill. Now, if you play as a spy and you want to get really good with the spy class, sneaking around and such, and also just learning the maps really well, I suggest you play spy with the Inviswatch. I've noticed that when I play spy with the Inviswatch, I get to know the maps, I get to know all the different routes that the spies take that other people don't really usually take, and you get to know the map in deeper ways than your average player. This is because the Inviswatch's cloak is based on time, so it sort of forces you to learn all the really quick routes around the map and routes to sneak around the enemy so that you can manage your cloak really well and stay invisible for most of the time. Using the Inviswatch also forces you to carefully pick out your targets. By the way, this guy, I think he's trying to rocket jump. Luckily, he's using the rocket jumper, so he's not hurting me, but still. I thought that was pretty funny. Oh, by the way, here, the Thompson. By the way, I still don't think the Thompson is, like, super overpowered. It's just, I was a spy, and I was in a bad situation. I shouldn't have been there. Lucky face stab. But yeah, the Inviswatch kind of forces you to carefully pick out your targets because, when you go in for the stab, you don't really have a safe way out like the Dead Ringer. When you get the stab, you're going to have to cloak immediately or defend yourself with the revolver. And so oh, jeez, stole my kill there. So when you go in for the kill with the Inviswatch, you have to be a little more careful about being seen. You can't just have your get out of jail free card. Now with Dead Ringer, you don't really have to think too much about that stuff because you have this huge safety net right in your pocket. You can activate Dead Ringer anytime you want to fake your death, and sometimes you may not even fake the death to, confuse your enemy. You may be just faking your death or activating Dead Ringer so that you get that reduction in damage, because it's really annoying to chase down a Dead Ringer because he basically has like a huge shield when he activates it. Because the Dead Ringer doesn't really require you to think too much when you use it, I think it's making people kind of lack the sort of game sense that we would like to see in TF2. Now, when I talk about game sense, well, first off, for any game, at least for first-person shooters and, let's say, fighting games, because I play fighting games as well, I think there are two components that make a player good at the game. One is just the act of doing it. Like, for first-person shooters, I call it gun skill. It's just the act of moving around, shooting, using the mouse, making sure you have good aim. That's what I consider as gun skill. And for fighting games, it's called execution. Like, how well can you do combos? The other half of the equation is game sense. And this is the thing that is very... Oh, I fell in the pit. Oh, man. By the way, watch this. When I die... Watch this spy on the screen. He gets lit on fire. I don't even think he's a Dead Ringer. I think he's just a normal spy. He gets lit on fire. He walks all the way behind our spawn, and no one saw him. I couldn't believe it. And I thought, I respawned, and I figured, he's dead by now, right? Like, my teammates turned around, right, and killed him, right? Nope, he's right here. I couldn't believe it. He was right there. Oh, he went all the way on fire, and I was the one who had to kill him. I couldn't believe it. It wasn't a real stab. It was just a wimpy stab, but still. But anyway, the second half of what makes a good player is having game sense, and this is understanding the game, understanding the flow of the game, and in terms of spy, playing mind games with the enemy. I think that's one of the cool things that Spy can do, is he can play mind games with the enemy. Other classes are kind of like frontline classes, so it's a little harder to do that, but with Spy, you can really confuse the hell out of the enemy. It's so much fun. Now, to encourage a little more thinking when playing Spy, not just activating Dead Ringer whenevers, my brother Snape and I, we were talking about potential tweaks that they could make to the Dead Ringer to make it a little more strategic, a little more not so just activate it whenever I want to kind of thing. And one of the things that we came up with was perhaps making it so that when you activate Dead Ringer and when you're invisible and you bump into someone, your cloak actually shows up. Kind of like when you use the Invis-watch and when you bump into someone, you see their outline, and so it's pretty obvious that they're right there. I think something like that for the Dead Ringer would be kind of cool, because it would force Dead Ringer spies, when they activate, they don't just rush in and bump into everyone. Like, that's what they do a lot, I see, is they just activate Dead Ringer, bump into everyone without even thinking, because they know that they're completely invisible and pretty much safe. If they maybe showed up a little bit when they bumped into someone, then they would think twice about bumping into people, and they would play a little more cautiously. Now, my question for you guys is, how do you like to play the Spy class? The Spy is a very unique class with a lot of different options. How do you like to play this class? Do you like to go shooting around like me right now? Or do you like to sneak around, go behind enemy lines, and go in for sneaky kills? Let me know in the comments below. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, and have a nice day.